Andes, there's an ancient city called Machu Picchu. It is a ruin that defies explanation. Who were the mysterious people who built it? And why did they build it here? With no defensive wall, it doesn't look like a fortress. Instead, there are fountains and small pools, temples, and strange altars cut from granite. But little else to explain how a people who didn't have iron tools or the wheel could have created such a masterpiece. And why? Now, new research is solving these mysteries in the bodies and bones of the people who once lived here.
To me, this is the type of injury more indicative of a weapon, possibly of warfare.
There are clues far below the city and underneath it, and in the stories of the mummies of kings. Will all these revelations finally lay the ghosts of Machu Picchu to rest? Right now, on this Nova National Geographic special. Perched at 8,000 feet on a narrow ridge in the high Andes, Machu Picchu is a remote and mysterious ancient wonder. Spread across the top of this ridge are more than 200 structures, each built with exquisitely cut stone. Some appear to be homes, others temples. They surround a 1-acre green, and all are fed by open waterways and fountains. It is a lost city, whose doorways and passages hint at the ghosts of its past. A place that is at once beautiful and baffling. There are no written clues in the city, no carvings to suggest a purpose. At its highest point, the mystery only deepens. There, a beautifully carved pillar stands, a graceful riddle to cap the sight. From this lofty height, the views leave one stunned, but also curious. How did the builders get all this stone up here, and then cut it so finely that they didn't even need mortar to hold their walls in place? Who built Machu Picchu? And why did they build it in this impossible place? Even more perplexing, why did they abandon it? Throughout the city, stone seemed to be on the verge of being placed when work came to a stop. Now, as never before, clues are emerging. Some at the site itself in new excavations. Others at the lower reaches of Machu Picchu, as teams explore them for the very first time. These mysteries have long obsessed Fernando Estete, director of the Machu Picchu Archaeological Park.
There is such an important cultural legacy here, not just for Peruvians, but the legacy for the entire world.
Making sense of that legacy is Aztete's challenge, along with getting to work. He has one of the most precarious commutes of anyone on the planet. His path was built by a people who were sure-footed, with little fear of heights. The Inca. They rose to power in the mid-1400s, in part because they built such good roads. Much of their 10,000-mile network is still visible today. They left other evidence that they were master engineers and builders. Their terraces, canals, and stone cities rival those of ancient Rome. But unlike the ancient Romans, they did all of this without the wheel, without iron, and without a written language. The Inca did have a calculating system using knotted strings called quipu, but it left no record of their lives or their history. So much of what we do know comes from the Spanish who conquered them in the 1500s. These accounts carry the bias of conquerors. A different view comes from an Inca artist named Guaman Poma. Poma was born shortly after the Spanish arrived in Peru, so he was an observer who bridged both worlds. He produced hundreds of simple drawings about farming techniques, royalty, and the Inca history of conquest. From both these sources, we know the Inca were fierce warriors who subjugated dozens of different peoples, forging them into one of the largest empires in the world, stretching some 2,400 miles. They fed their people by transforming steep slopes into farmland, with the rise and run of terracing. It's believed that more land was under cultivation during Inca times than is today in modern Peru. But the most surprising detail about the Inca is that they ruled for only 100 years. Then their empire was decimated, first by disease, then civil war, finally the Spanish conquistadors.